Shalom, shalom, everybody. So I'm standing outside of Israel's Knesset, our parliament, and this is where I have meetings every once in a while with Israeli politicians and ministers and talk about the work that we are doing in order to help strengthen not just Israel, but the important strategic relationship between the United States of America and Israel. You know, every once in a while I go in on speaking tours to America and visits to Washington, D.C. with congressmen and senators. And on my recent trip, I got to sit down and talk with a number of different congressmen. And I wanted to share that with you because this is one of the really important projects we work on here at the Pulse of Israel under our organization, the 12 Tribe Films Foundation. And it's important that everyone know about it and share this with other people as well. So this trip, I had the opportunity to sit down with, actually I didn't sit with him, I was standing with Congressman Andy Barr, and a great friend of Israel. Wait till you hear what he has to say as I'm standing with him on the foots up to Congress. Here I am, Washington, D.C., Capitol Steps, with my good friend Congressman Andy Barr. Shalom, Andy.
Andy, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. Andy is a true friend of the Jewish state of Israel and the Jewish people.
Yeah, greetings and blessings to all our friends in Israel, and prayers for all of you all. What you've faced over the last year has been just devastating, and Americans are with Israel.
And I wanted to ask, because seriously, we're in a time period where it's never been clearer that Israel is the good, fighting a clear, despicable evil. And yet here, even in the halls of Congress, there are voices who are not only not supportive of Israel, but working against Israel, calling to withhold weapons from Israel. How is it in Washington here with that type of atmosphere?
Well, it's very difficult when we don't have some leaders in both the administration and in Congress who refuse to stand by our ally and embrace the enemy. But I thought Prime Minister Netanyahu's joint address was excellent, and he said it well. And I think the vast majority of Americans are with this sentiment that when Israel achieves victory, we all achieve victory. Israel's enemies are our enemies, and so victory for Israel means full and complete de-radicalization and demilitarization of Gaza, and a lasting, durable peace. Those who call for a ceasefire need to remember that this war ends tomorrow if the terrorists lay down their arms and release the hostages, right. Every last one of them.
Right.
But they won't do it.
Right.
And so we must defend Israel's right to defend itself and free those hostages and permanently de-radicalize and demilitarize Gaza.
Right. And I know we've spoken in the past about your support for the bills to defund UNRWA because of its support for educating to terrorism. This war has exposed so much of how UNRWA, United Nations funding from America, that's going to literally educate children to be terrorists and want to kill. And then we have the United Nations vote yesterday that is basically punishing Israel, even though we're fighting this war, calling on us to get out of Gaza and Judea and Samaria instead of punishing Hamas. What's your stance today and where things are going in terms of UNRWA and the United Nations and everything?
It's outrageous that you would have international bodies like UNRWA, like even the UN Human Rights Council, take such a wrong-headed position like this. And so the United States, through Congress and through our diplomacy, must put pressure on international organizations to oppose BDS, to oppose these kinds of positions, taking the side of Hamas. And we need to use our diplomatic tools to bring the international community together in support of Israel and in defiance of terror.
And do you see that happening if a Harris administration comes to be here in Washington?
Well, regrettably, no, because she has been, at the very best, she has been duplicitous in her statements. But at the end of the day, we need a president of the United States who will be unequivocal and unambiguous in support for Israel.
Congressman Barr, it is wonderful having your support. And when are we going to see you with your family back again in Israel with Ruth and Sarah?
Oh, I can't wait. I really can't wait to bring my family back to the Holy Land. I've been there 4 times, and every time it's very, very special. It means a lot to me, to my family, and I look forward to coming back.
Yeah, and we look forward.
We pray for peace. We pray for victory. We pray for the future, the prosperous future of the Jewish people in Israel.
Right, because as Congressman Barr started out, when we have that peace and security, then America and the freedom-loving world will have that peace and security as well. Congressman Barr, thank you so much. Keep on up the good and holy work you're doing here.
Thank you.
That's it for the Pulse of Israel here in D.C. with Congressman Barr. Thank you, everyone.
Blessings.
Now, while Andy Barr is a Republican, I also got to meet some Democrats and speak with them. And this next one was a nice talk I had with Congressman Moskowitz. And he also, obviously, has very, very warm things to say about Israel. Hello, everybody. This is Congressman Jared Moskowitz, and a Democrat in Congress, very important voice for the Jewish people, America, and the state of Israel. What do you have to say, Congressman?
Well, listen, the relationship between America and Israel is paramount, our #1 ally, not just in the Middle East, but really in the world. And the United States and the American people still stand with Israel. We got to get the hostages out. We got to make sure that Israel has security, and the United States is doing everything we can to make sure that's the case.
Thank you so much for your support. All the work you're doing, not so simple today in Congress, understood in this confusing world. And again, the message when I was walking through Congress the past few days, I was telling everybody, Israel is the front line of the freedom-loving world. Like, support Israel, not for us, for the Jewish people, but also for America and for Americans.
That's right.
So thank you very much. God bless you.
Appreciate it.
One of the people I got to actually sit down with and have a full, proper interview, and talk through the issues. And again, this is just the things that take place on camera, because the more important things are what's talked about off camera, whether before or after the videos are made with the public statements. And it's those private conversations of information with what's really going on with the Jewish people, what's really going on with the state of Israel beyond the headlines, that is not in the headlines, that the headlines don't give across, that politicians in Israel can't say publicly. Those are the messages that we're able to do, and this is a special Yes Israel project working on the strengthening of relations by education with between American politicians and Israeli politicians and our countries. So this is a nice talk I had with Congressman Andy Harris, going more in deep with the issues. All right, shalom everybody. I am here with Congressman Andy Harris, not only a very important congressman here in America, but a true friend of the Jewish people and the state of Israel, and one who is very, very influential in allowing for the strengthening of the relationship between the United States and Israel, which is not just about Israel, it's also about helping America stay strong and protecting the whole freedom-loving world. So, shalom aleichem, Congressman Harris.
Good to be with you again, Avi.
It is wonderful being with you. And I just wanted to take advantage of the opportunity and hear your thoughts. I mean, I understand now you have a new position, the head of the Freedom Caucus here in Washington, here in D.C., and what is your vision moving forward in terms of the U.S.-Israel strategic relationship, and Israel in particular, especially with the reality of the war and the threats and the Iranian octopus we're dealing with in the Middle East?
Well, we share a common enemy. Obviously, Iran is a common enemy to the United States and to Israel. I think most Americans realize that. And the strategic relationship we've had over decades now has been beneficial to both parties. I mean, we don't hear anymore, well, this is just giving money to Israel, because we explain to them, no, we're developing defense mechanisms. We are, Iron Dome capability is protecting us in Alaska. I mean, these defense strategies against your enemies are useful against our enemies too. So a lot of, and that's why in the last bill we included $1 billion for mutual research and development of cutting edge defensive mechanisms, absolutely cutting edge, which Israel has championed with the Iron Dome and David Sling. I mean, they championed over the past few decades, and so we've gained from that relationship as well. But even more importantly, Israel is a very important ally in the region. Israel is clearly under threat from multiple sides. I mean, at first it was Gaza, and now it's up in the north. Iran always knocking on the door. Syria there. I mean, it's a very fraught situation. But I do believe that the United States will see this through. We'll make sure that Israel has the time, support, equipment to win the war. Israel didn't start this war.
Right.
This war was started on October 7th by radical Islamic terrorists. I mean, I'm sorry, we should use that term far more often in the United States, because after September 11, we know what a radical Islamic terrorist is.
Right.
And you know the figures on a per capita basis, this way overshadowed what happened on September 11 in terms of the number killed by these radical Islamic terrorists. Right. So Israel is now the front of that war, and it is for Israel a truly existential war, and I think we understand that, and that's why we're so supportive.
So a follow-up question, just to give some of the sentiment that we're feeling in Israel, and this isn't you, this is in terms of dealing with the Biden White House. We just had the 6 captives literally executed point-blank range in a tunnel in an area under Rafiah, or as it's called here in America, Rafah, where we know that unfortunately the Biden administration threatened and pressured and withheld weapons from Israel, pressuring us not to go into Rafiah. How's the navigating here with that? I'm going to use the word hostility, but from the Biden administration, when this fight is their same fight.
Sure. Look, I'm sure the Biden administration might have that feeling. That's not shared by the majority of Americans. I think the majority of Americans understand, again, the threat of radical Islamic terrorists. Terrorists who would purposefully kill a hostage. I mean, you've held that hostage for a while, and you're going to kill a hostage literally on the threshold of their release, but by the Israeli Defensive Force. Americans get it. They know what we're up against. They know because, again, we had September 11th, you had October 7th. We share that commonality. There really there's no other 2 countries in the world who experience radical Islamic terrorism on that scale. Right. There are none. And this is a very small community of nations who understand what's going on. And I suspect the majority of Americans actually understand it and are highly supportive. Right.
And I'm just going to put a plug in here. Congressman Harris has come to Israel multiple times together with Ruth and Sarah and the Yes Israel Project. And I'm just a firm believer in knowing how bringing congressmen on the ground to Israel, like the way you experience, seeing beyond the headlines, beyond the sound bites, and really meeting the people and seeing the sites just gives a whole other understanding of what we're dealing with in the region, and the versatility and resilience of the Jewish people in Israel dealing with everything we're going through. What would your words be about suggesting to other congressmen and congresswomen about taking such an experience as well?
I think you have to do it, because one of the real differences in those trips are you go into Judea and Samaria, you go into the, quote, West Bank, and you see how the vast majority of Arabs who live in that region actually depend upon the vibrant Israeli economy to support their family. And they're happy about it. I mean, we visited and we were told, if you work in the Palestinian Authority regions, the minimum wage is this. Right. You work for an Israeli company, the minimum wage is this. Right. And again, what we learned is that most people are the same throughout the world. They want what's best for them and their family, their economic success, the prosperity they can bring to their family, their children and grandchildren. And the majority living in Judea and Samaria, the majority of Arabs living there, realize that Israel is that answer. A small number of troublemakers are causing the uproar. And in Gaza, unfortunately, Hamas convinced the majority of citizens there that somehow they were the opportunity. Of course, it never occurred. Israel, again, those who want to discuss a 2-state solution, we saw that failed. Right. Gaza was a 2-state solution.
Correct. You're right.
And it ended very badly for Israel. And I think that we have to go with eyes wide open into any discussion of a, quote, 2-state solution going forward, because history has already shown what that's done with what happened in Gaza.
So I'm gonna come to you with a different type of question that I imagine you're not usually asked. What can we do to help you?
I think what you have to do is you have to counter some of what media reports here. I mean, you have to show that, for instance, it's interesting. We have 80, 100,000 refugees somewhere in that ballpark from who have left their home for a certain number of times. And we need to see that in America. We need to see people who have been displaced because of the threats of Hezbollah in the north. We need to, because that will firm our resolve to say, you know what? Israel has to do what it can to make sure that those people can return to their homes, that there's peace in the northern region. And if that involves cutting the head off of Hezbollah, then it has to be done. And we have to be fully supportive of that. Because there is suffering going on by innocent civilians. And it is, the order of magnitude. I mean, 80 or 100,000 people, that's a lot of people displaced.
Right. And they've been displaced for close to a year, literally.
Yes, right. I mean, your life put on hold. Your kids, they aren't going to the schools they're going to. You're not living in your homes. You don't know what's happening in your homes. I mean, you talk about a humanitarian issue. That's a huge humanitarian issue.
Right. Yeah. Well, listen, Congressman, thank you so much for all of the important work you're doing, not just for the American people, but for the whole freedom-loving world by standing up for the Jewish state of Israel. I think we're on the same page understanding Israel is the front line of the freedom-loving world, so supporting Israel, I always tell people, it's not about supporting Israel or supporting the Jews, it's just about supporting you and making sure America is safe as well for your children, your grandchildren, and you're certainly on the front line here making that happen. So thank you so much.
Good to see you again.
Pleasure. Everyone, thank you very much for another episode of The Pulse of Israel here from Washington, D.C. with very good friends that we all have to keep on supporting and letting know that we're behind them. And finally, the other congressman I was able to get on camera, very short, very powerful, was with Congressman Van Drew. And Congressman Van Drew's story is actually very interesting because he was a Democrat. And a few years ago, I think during the first Trump administration, he officially changed to be a Republican. So here, listen to what Congressman Van Drew had to say. Shalom, everybody. I am now with New Jersey Representative Congressman Jeff Van Drew, who is a true friend of Israel. You just have to Google him, see what he's been doing, follow him if you're a New Jersey citizen. Support this guy. Congressman, what do you have to say?
It's good to be with you. I believe in Israel. I believe in the mission of Israel. I believe that we must stay with Israel's support, side by side, shoulder to shoulder. How Israel goes is how America goes.
100%. Thank you so much for your support, Congressman. And again, the important thing is it's not about Republican or Democrat. It's about reaching out and connecting with those politicians, whether congressmen or senators, who are pro-Israel, who understand that a strong strategic relationship between Israel and America is not just for Israel's best interest, but for the best interest of the United States of America. Because we here in Israel, and this is our seat of sovereignty, the Knesset, we are the front line of the whole freedom-loving world, and especially with the growth of jihadi Islam, not just in the Middle East, but in Europe and even in America and other Western countries. We're the front line for all of you. And in order for Americans to be best protected, well, we here on the front line have to be best protected and stop all of this evil jihadi Islam in its tracks over here and give you not just the knowledge, not just the technology, but the confidence that you are also able to stand up against it, because we are doing so successfully, and we have to do it successfully in order to protect ourselves and protect the United States of America and the whole freedom-loving world. So that is the Yes Israel project that I'm blessed to work on, and work on this strategic relationship and educating and bringing congressmen and senators to Israel to be able to see the beautiful land of Israel beyond the headlines and deal with the issues and meet the people beyond the cameras, to really get a better understanding, to strengthen the Israel-U.S. relationship, to protect the whole freedom-loving world. I'm off to Washington, D.C. again in a few weeks to continue this very, very important work. And if you're going to be able to be at any one of the talks I'll be having, whether in New York or Florida or any other places I'm going, then it will be a pleasure to see you. Come over and say hi. Shalom, everyone. From another episode of Pulse of Israel, where you get the belief-based, inspiring, politically incorrect truth about Israel, the Jewish people, and the freedom-loving world. If you are not yet a subscriber, what are you waiting for? Where else do you get content like this with the messages of the belief-based, politically incorrect truth beyond the headlines? Go to pulseofisrael.com and click to subscribe. And we are a donor-based operation, educating people about Israel, the Jewish people, and the freedom-loving world, heavily censored and shadow banned across all social media. To help us make our videos and get them seen by many more people, every once in a while, click on the donate button on pulseofisrael.com. Shalom, everyone, from Israel's seat of sovereignty, the Knesset.
Pulse of Israel, frontline videos from the Holy Land. Support our work by donating today.